everyone, I'm Anne Foster and today I'm delivering a program on writing. For a long time, teachers and parents have been at a loss in looking at writing and developing a framework that will help children to develop their writing successfully. 6+1 Traits have developed a framework that is useful in supporting this purpose. And over here on the board, I have a house representing the main components of this framework. When we look at children's writing, it's hard to devise what areas they need to have support in. And when looking at this framework, you can see that there are idea development, organisation, conventions, sentence fluency, word choice, and voice. And the final one, which hasn't been depicted on this chart, is presentation. So each of those areas has a definition that goes with it. And idea development means that we have to help children generate an idea and come up with something that is really exciting for the reader. In this area, it's like looking for sapphires, digging deep until you find something that will excite the reader, something new. The second idea is organisation, and organisation is the framework of writing. What sort of writing do we want them to do? Do we want them to write a letter? Do we want them to write a report or a narrative? What do we want them to write? And there's a set framework for every sort of writing. Within that framework, there has to be structure as well. And the structure is related to sentence construction and all of those sort of little bits and pieces that go together to make a great organisation. Our third area is word choice. When we look at word choice, we're looking at the best word that we can use or the child can use to say what they want to say. That doesn't come naturally for us or for a lot of children either. And it takes a lot of time to be precise and concise with word choice. But with lots of viewing and reading of great literature, children can develop that skill quite easily. Our next section is voice. In voice, it means that we're trying to portray the personality of the writer. And you know that if you read a book, you can feel the author's energy coming through the pages. And this is what we want for the children. We want their personalities to show. I should be able to line up 10 pieces of writing in front of me and say, this is Tommy, this is Harry, and this is Juliet. But we don't have that often in writing, and it's sadly missed. Our next area of writing is sentence fluency. Now, sentence fluency was probably called the old conventions, where we talked about capital letters, full stops, commas, and all of those little areas. They are very, very important, but the biggest thing in writing is that we listen with our ears, because if we don't use our ears to listen to the fluency of the sentences, we won't have a fluid delivery of what we're talking about. Now, this is why ears are very, very important in this area. And you know that when you read a story, if it's clumsy in its sentence construction, it takes away from the delivery of the text. And this is what we want for the children. We want them to be able to read their stories aloud to audiences so that they can hear if their sentences are clumsy. Our next area of delivery is conventions, and conventions is the area that we use our eyes. In this area, we're looking at the text or the piece of writing and looking for full stops, capital letters, making sure that everything is grammatically correct, circling spelling if it's incorrect, and going back and correcting it at a later stage. Our final area is presentation, which is not listed on this house, but it deals with the neatness and the formatting of our presentation. Now, when we look at the whole idea of writing, everything fits closely together. If we don't have a great idea, it's like the foundations of a house. It will not stick, it will not hold together well. The organisation helps, the word choice, the voice, the sentence fluency, the conventions and the presentation. It is all one part of a whole. There is one thing I'd just like to end with, and that is if you displayed this house to the children and asked them, after a definition of each area, what score that they would give for themselves for each area, you'd be amazed at the accuracy that they show in this scoring guide. This guide is also very useful as a scoring guide for teachers to work out what areas need development and which areas are the strengths. Following on from the ideas talk that we just had, I'd like to present this book, which is about, it has 8 different stories in it. It's called The Secret Knowledge of Grown-Ups, and the book is compiled of rules that grown-ups have made for children. And these stories are about the most mundane subjects. And the story that I'm going to read today is about vegetables. And this story is just so exciting and so interesting that any child could use a mundane subject and come up with something like this, following the ideas that we gave beforehand. So our top secret idea for today is the grown-up rule number 31. And in this story, the author has placed on one side what is happening in the rule delineation, and on the second page the author has put the rule and then a story about that rule. So I'll go through those 3 areas because that's what we want the children to do, to develop a framework and then to write within that framework. So the heading for the first page is location, and the location is the American Produce Council, Aurora, Illinois. And the date and time is July the 22nd, 1997, 1:30 p.m. And in the logbook was this entry: enter American Produce Council compound in vegetable truck, posing as a large eggplant. Break into the file room during lunch, discover the grown-up rule number 31, and then escape through the crowded cafeteria claiming to be leftover massacre, I think you call it. And then on the next page is the top secret, the grown-up rule number 31, eat your vegetables. And the official reason that parents give is that they're good for you. The truth is, you don't eat vegetables because they're good for you. You eat vegetables too, and we don't have the answer, so we have to read the story. And the name of this story is To Keep Them Under Control. Millions of years ago, vegetables ruled the earth. Big bunches of broccoli stomped through the jungles, followed by ferocious carrots and savage packs of peas. Huge heads of lettuce roamed the grasslands, and giant celery stalked the plains. And what were these terrible vegetables looking for? You guessed it. People. Yes, these were meat-eating vegetables. They terrorized early humans, attacking without warning. Our ancestors put up with this for centuries, living in drafty caves and getting nasty head colds. But then they discovered sticks and stones. With these new weapons, humans began to defend themselves. At first, lone hunters would take on a single radish or green bean. Eventually, groups of hunters tackled bigger game, like the saber-toothed asparagus and woolly cucumber. By mixing these vanquished vegetables, primitive chefs invented salad. The real turning point, however, was the discovery of fire. With it, hunters could frighten the less intelligent vegetables into ambushes and traps. Thousands of butternut squash, frightened by hunters' fiery torches, plunged over a cliff in what is now France. Scientists believe this incident gave squash its name. Courageous humans confront a fully grown carnivore, using their torches to fatally overheat the beast's vital kernels. More important, fire allowed humans to cook their leafy foes. As this fossil from Montana shows, predatory potatoes and man-eating mushrooms were turned into Stone Age casseroles. This brought the age of vegetables to a close. As the human race grew in size and intelligence, vegetables became smaller and dumber, devolving into the pathetic produce of gardens and grocery stores. To prevent vegetables from ever regaining power, grown-ups eat them. They don't like the flavour any more than you do, but it keeps the little horrors fearful and demoralised. It's a simple way to protect modern civilization. Besides, which would you rather do? Eat vegetables or be eaten by vegetables? That story is amazing in that it was created using the mundane topic of vegetables. It's an exciting story that we had a laugh at. But another thing that's really important about this story is the way the author has used words. The word choice is phenomenal. Big bunches of broccoli stomped through the jungles. The author has used the words to demonstrate precisely and succinctly what he wants to say. And listen to this, followed by ferocious carrots. I couldn't imagine carrots being that angry, but they are in this story, and savage packs of peas. Peas come in packs, but the author has used packs as the word packs to describe multitudes of peas. And we talk about lettuce heads, and here the author has used the word head in another way. Huge heads of lettuce roam the grasslands, and this gives extraordinary impact to the fight that these vegetables are carrying on with. And giant celery stalked the plains, and we know that celery comes in stalks, and the author has used the verb stalked in a very creative way. This book is just one example of the way we can use mundane topics to create exciting details and exciting ideas to impact on our readers.